Hi everybody, welcome to today's live STEM program. It's been a while, but for today's program we are back in my apartment. The people upstairs seem to be moving a lot of stuff around, so if you hear creaking and moving, that's just the people upstairs. But I'm glad we can still do this, even though we're not in the library today. So just ignore what's going on behind me. That really doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing. Today we are going to focus on the human body. And these are all things that most people can do. So the tricks I'm going to show you are things I want you to follow along with me at home. Now, unlike usual, Miss Emily is not here to monitor your comments. If you do have comments, sometimes they will come up on my phone screen, but sometimes they don't. So if you have questions or comments, I might see them, I might not, but I promise you I will look at the comments and questions once we're done, so that if I missed anything, I can reply. But what I would really like you to do is to follow along with me over the course of this program, because I promise you these are things that most people can do and they are really interesting. So we are going to start off pretty easy. One of the things that's interesting about the human body is that we live in our bodies every day, but a lot of stuff goes on in our bodies that we don't know is going on. Maybe it's because it just happens automatically, or maybe there are aspects of our body that we're not very familiar with, and a couple of those are going to be tricks I show you today. So for the first one, we're going to need to hum. So before we start, I would just like us all to try humming. So just close your mouth and make a humming sound like this. Can you do that for me? Just go. Okay, so that's something that most people can do, that you've probably done before. But did you know that if you hold your nose, you can't hum? So what I want you to do this time is hold your nose and try to hum. All right, so nothing, right? So one of the reasons that that you can't hum with your nose closed, can you think of a reason why you might be able to hum with your nose open but not with your nose closed? What doesn't happen when your nose is closed? Air can't get in and air can't get out, right? So what does that mean for humming? When you hum, even though your mouth is closed, you're still making sound because air is coming out and in through your nose. So if there's no air coming in and out through your nose, there's no humming. So one more time. So that's trick number one. You just can't hum with your nose closed. Okay, so trick number two is a little bit more difficult. It's all to do with your hands. In your hands are things called tendons. And these things called tendons control the motion of our fingers. We actually have tendons all throughout our body, but we're just focusing on our hands right now. Okay, so what I would like you to do is have a flat surface, a hard surface, preferably a table. And this has to do with our middle finger, the one right in the middle, thumb, index, middle, ring, pinky. So I want you to put your hand on your table, but I want you to tuck your middle finger down. So it's like this. Just my middle finger is tucked down and pressed onto the table. You know you're doing it right because you can feel your knuckle on the table. All right, if you can't get this right after this, I'm going to show you another way that you can do this if it's a little tricky for you. But you need to have your middle finger down, pressed onto the table all the way to your knuckle. Okay, so I'm going to give you a second to get there. All right, so now what I want you to do, keeping your middle finger tucked under your hand on the table, is lift your thumb. You can do that, right? Now, lift your index finger. That's your pointer finger. It's the one right next to your thumb. Okay, now lift your pinky, the one all the way on the end. Now, what I want you to do is try and lift your ring finger, the one we haven't tried to lift yet. Nothing's happening, right? I don't want you to strain too hard to try and get this to work because it won't work, and I don't want you to strain yourself. And I'm going to show you another way to do this. So, if you had a hard time just putting your middle finger under, what I want you to do is put them all under except for your ring finger and then try and lift it. It's not working, right? And there's a reason for that. So, the reason you can lift your thumb, your index, and your pinky finger while your middle finger is under is because all of their tendons are separate. They work alone. But the tendons in your middle finger and your ring finger are connected. So when you can't move your middle finger, you also can't move your ring finger. If you're moving it easily, you probably don't have it down far enough. Or you've discovered something about yourself that we didn't know. So, that is the second weird human body trick. And it all has to do with the tendons in your hand that control the movements of your fingers. So again, the tendons in your thumb, your pointer, and your pinky finger work alone, where the middle finger and the ring finger, they are connected somewhere along the way, which is why you can't move your ring finger if you can't move your middle finger. Okay, so I'm not going to go into this one right now because some of you might have seen the post. One of our weird human body tricks has to do with a cardboard tube. This is an empty paper towel tube. A toilet paper tube would work as well, but you could also roll up a piece of paper into a tube for this to work. Now, I'm not going to do this one right now because if you don't have something like that on hand, you might be able to get that working before we get to that one. All right, so looks like we lost connection for a second there. Hopefully nothing wrong happened. The next thing I want you to do is to stand up. And honestly, you're not going to see me very much because I have this on a tripod. And let's see if I can get this tripod up a little bit. Okay, but now we're far too close. So what I want you to do is stand up. All right? Stand up. And can you stand on one leg? It's a little difficult. Let's see if we can get back. So we're standing on one leg. I have one leg up, right? It's a little tricky, but you might be able to do it. Now, what I want you to do, keeping that one leg up, is to close your eyes. Now, I went down pretty far, but it's harder to balance when your eyes are closed, right? I'm going to come back down, but you can keep trying. So you go up on that one leg and you balance. It can be a little hard, but it's even harder when you close your eyes. I'm glad the tricks are working. Okay, so it's even harder to balance when you close your eyes. So what does that tell you? All right, that means that we use our eyes to help us balance, right? Because with our eyes, we see things and we can, here's a big word, orient ourselves. So we know where we are looking at things, which is why it's easier to balance with your eyes open than why it is harder with your eyes closed. Okay, so my next trick. I don't know if you know the difference between clockwise and counterclockwise. Do you know the difference between your right and your left? Okay, so it's an easy way to do this is if you make an L with both hands, the one that's right, and we keep losing connection, so if I blip out, I apologize. So this one is your left, right? Because when you make this with your fingers, it's an L. This one is not an L, so this is your right. Okay, so clockwise is the way the clock goes around, which is to the right. Counterclockwise is the opposite way to the left. So I'm gonna say right and left, because I think that's a bit easier than clockwise and counterclockwise. So I'm gonna get my foot up here. All right, so here's my foot. I want you to turn it in a circle going to the right. So when you start turning your foot, go to the right. All right, now what I want you to do is take your right hand and continuing to circle your foot, make a 6. Now, you probably saw it with me, but let's try it again. I'm going to the right with my hand and to my foot, and it's all going great. Now I make a 6, and my foot automatically switches directions. So the 6 is a shortcut, but really what you're doing is you're moving your finger in the opposite direction of your foot. So if I just start going to the left, my foot goes to the left, even though I started going to the right. Okay, now, why do you think that is? That's a weird one, right? Some people with practice can stop that happening. Now, if you automatically don't do that, that's pretty great. But most people, when you have your foot going one direction and you start moving your hand in the opposite direction, your foot will change direction. The reason for that has to do with our brain. So, the left side of our brain controls the right side of our body. So there's only that one part of the brain that's controlling the right side of our body. Since we were both using our right hand and our right foot, the brain couldn't really move them in opposite directions, or at least it can't do it very easily. Like I said, some people can practice and learn how to shut that off. But the brain doesn't like to do that. It doesn't like to do two opposite movements on the same side of the body. Now, if you do it with your left foot and your right hand, you can still do it, right? This is much easier. It can still be a little tricky. But the reason for that is now you have your left side of your brain controlling your right hand, and your right side of the brain controlling your left foot. So you have two different parts of the brain controlling the two different body parts, and it's much easier for your brain to do two opposite movements when you're using both sides of the brain. Did that work for you? Let me know. I gotta take a little sip of water. That's a weird one, right? Okay. So, these are going to go pretty quickly, but I am also, once we're done with this, I'm going to quickly go over them all at the end again, just so if you missed any of the first bit, you can do it again. I also left my notes at work, which is why this is a little shorter, because this is pretty much what I can remember. So, remember I told you about the cardboard tube? What I want you to do is, if you have one, to get this out. Also, a piece of paper rolled into a tube also works. If you don't have it, I just want you to watch and listen so you can try it later when you do have a cardboard tube. So this one has to do with the brain as well, but it's your brain and your eyes. What I want you to do is hold up the cardboard tube like you're a pirate looking through a telescope. Okay? But don't close your other eye. Don't go like this. You want both your eyes open. So I have this eye open and I have this eye open. Now, take your hand and put it next to the cardboard tube. You might see it already, but if you don't, move your hand a little closer to your face. What you're going to see is a hole going right through your hand. What you're seeing is what this eye is seeing, except through your hand. Now it looks like you can't see either of my eyes right now, right? But I can see my camera through the hole in my hand. Okay, now that one's a little freaky, right? Well, the reason for that is something called binocular rivalry. And don't worry, I'll explain that. So, your eyes aren't in the same place, but they are very close together. And your eyes are used to looking at pretty much the same thing, just a little bit off. What your brain does is it puts them together. It puts those two images together and it looks like one thing. But what happens when you have one eye looking ahead through the hole and one eye looking at your hand is you are not looking at pretty much the same thing. One eye is looking at what's in front of you and one eye is looking at your hand. So the brain doesn't quite know what to do with that because it's used to putting those two pictures together. So what it does is what it always does. It puts those two pictures together and what you see is a hole in your hand. That one is really cool and it's also really easy. You can show it to your friends and you can call it the hole in the hand trick. You can call it a magic trick, especially if you don't quite remember why it happens. But the reason it happens is because your brain is used to putting the pictures from both eyes together, and it does it even when something is a little different. Okay, so those are the human body tricks I have for you today. So you can't hum with your nose closed. Right? Your finger, middle finger under. You can raise your thumb. You can raise your index finger. You can raise your pinky, but you cannot move your ring finger because the tendons are connected. The foot and the number 6. Foot to the right. Make a number 6, and it'll go to the left. It's hard to balance with your eyes closed. And the hole in the hand because of binocular rivalry. Okay, I hope you had fun with those. Once I finish this, if you didn't quite get one of the tricks, once I finish this recording, I'll share it to our page and you can start watching over again. That way, the next time you see your friends, you can impress them with these weird human body tricks. Okay, I hope you had fun this week. Next week, we are actually going to be having a music and movement party on Monday at 4 o'clock. So we're going to have Miss Danielle from Bendy Bookworm Yoga and Mr. Chris from Magical Melodies. So there's going to be movement and stories and music. It's going to be really great, and it's going to be here on Facebook at 4 o'clock. Okay, so come to that, definitely. And the week after that, we are going to be having our next STEM experiment on the 20th. Oh, no, not on the 21st. I'm sorry. On the 28th, we will have our next STEM experiment. Okay, so just keep an eye on our Facebook page. I'll keep you updated on what programs we have going on. Okay, so thank you for coming, and I will see you Thursday for pajama story time if you would like to come. Bye.